Superman is arguably the most important superhero of all time. A man who has existed in comics since June of 1938 and on film since 1951, Superman represents hope, inspiration, the ultimate embodiment of good. Funnily enough, none of those traits were quite demonstrated in the new Superman movie. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I know the ins and outs of Superman in comic books or that I'm deeply in touch with the long-lasting 70-plus year legacy that he brings to movies, because the truth is, I'm just not. It's not a character that I necessarily care for or have an interest in, but I went into this movie with an unknowing optimism that anything could be possible with James Gunn's new Superman film. That is, until it wasn't. This is, in fact, a spoiler-free review of Superman, so there is no need to worry about me going into any detailed plot points or cameos. Yes, cameos that might transpire in this movie. I will save those thoughts for another video or another time. This is 100% spoiler-free. Now, there are things to both like and dislike about James Gunn's new Superman film for DC. What is being touted as kind of the rebirth and re-energizing moment for DC and the universe that these movies have created. Unfortunately for me, there were a lot more things to dislike about this movie than there were to like. But I will start with a few positive things that I walked away from Superman with, namely the imperative and prescient thematic ideas that take place around the main narrative of the movie and how those relate to real world events that are happening right now. Lex Luthor being a demonstrator for how bad billionaires really are, how morally corrupt governments can become, how absolute inhumane certain types of war and displacement of people are, and how shiny you can keep your bald head, all works for me for the most part. I think Nicholas Hoult in this role was quite enjoyable. He's given a couple monologues that work really well, and I think his energy and his attitude and his bald head are big highlights of the movie. Yet as the movie progresses, it feels as though those very important themes that the film worked so hard to lay the groundwork for in the first act and does so quite effectively are ultimately thrown into the back seat and abandoned for unfunny quips and minute-by-minute jokes, James Gunn's signature action style that is visually obnoxious to take part in, and the movie kind of becomes a pseudo Guardians of the Galaxy type romp, but from Temu. I know I said I was going to lead with the positives, and Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane is one of those positives, but I didn't mention her in that group because she's just not given enough screen time. She is a scene stealer in this movie, and yet she is only given a couple of scenes to steal, and I feel like that is kind of a crime that the movie commits. That brings me to David Cornsweet as Superman. He looks good in the suit. He has a great tone and attitude that he brings to make a very compelling Superman character, but there are ultimately two large problems I have with him. Number one is the fact that the movie doesn't explore his humanity enough and ultimately relies on that as a narrative and emotional crux for you to be really invested in his character, but just doesn't really investigate it, at least to the standard that I was hoping. To say anything more would be to enter spoiler territory, so I'll stop there, but I was ultimately disappointed in the movie's inability to really dig into the thing that I cared about the most. And number two, it kind of just felt like he was impersonating Jim Halpert for most of the movie. I don't know what to tell you. That's what I felt. The script did allow for a few key monologues, like I mentioned, for Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. But other than that, it felt incredibly stiff and choppy and didn't really lend itself to creating and cultivating the tone and attitude that you could tell that this movie really wanted to grapple on with. It felt ultimately bogged down by a lot of logistical talk and things that you find in comic book movies that just didn't feel at home in this movie. At the end of the day, I just didn't find Superman, well, very super. I gave it 2.5 stars on Letterboxd. Superman is a certified stinker. Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts once you've seen Superman. Please help me find what other people are finding in this movie that make it so good, because it's not fun to not like a big movie like this. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell so you are notified every single time I do upload a new video. I will see you next time when I give you my top 10 movies of 2025 so far. Bye. See ya.